welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available in podcast form. Find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments on any broadcast. Hit us up at DJ@ArtistFirst.com. And now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man, and thank you. And you know what? We love you people. We love Z-Man too, but we love you people. We're so happy to be here.
Yes, we are.
and tonight's show is it's just going to be one solid hour of love fest. We're just going to melt. No, we're not. We're not going to do that because we would never do that. But tonight is going to be about something which is very close, near and dear to a love fest, which is the topic tonight is commitment. And now all the guys don't run screaming out of the room. You know that the C word is very scary, but it's not necessarily that type of commitment. Although it is sort of that type of commitment. But the last few weeks our shows have been sort of topical, and we decided this evening that we would go back to our normal ethereal, ignoring the events of the world and just talk about what we want to talk about. So the topic came up of commitment, and the word itself is familiar to everyone. We all have various commitments that we have. You have to pay your bills and obey the laws and sort of execute. If you say you'll do something, you should do it, and you should give your 100 or your 110% or whatever it is that you commit to a particular task. But commitment is a verb. It is something which it's an action. Commitment is not something that you own or have. It's not an object. It's something that you do. Commitment is a transmissive kind of action.
It's a process.
It's a process, exactly.
So it is always in motion, but as body, it's looked on as a noun.
Well, no, it is. The word commitment is certainly a noun.
Yes.
But the act, the actual fulfillment or the actual process of carrying something out, is the execution of commitment, and it's when you see it. And the two words that are on either side of commitment, which are sort of the beginning of it, or sort of the potential part of it, and then the sort of the prize at the end, are also part of tonight's subject. We're going to talk about promises, and we're going to talk about fulfillment. And initially, I had thought that we were going to talk about promises, and then I kind of walked myself backward and said, well, promises are great, but it's not promises that matter, because promises are easy. You say, I'll do such and such, or I'll I promise to do X, Y, or Z. You promises are important. Promises are incredibly important because promises are the beginning.
Right. And it's interesting because even young ones understand that there are different degrees of promises.
Right.
You can pinky swear, and that means,
Ooh, we're pinky swearing right now. Can you feel it? But no, yes. I mean,
let's go back.
But yes, you're right. There are different levels of promises. Certainly, there's a promise of which involves your life or your treasure or your being. If you promise someone your life, or you promise someone your being, it's a big promise, right? Pinky swears are the kids' version of a big promise, but the idea of taking an oath. An oath is something which people say, oh, an oath, I'm under oath. But an oath is nothing more than a sort of a dressed up fancy promise. A promise is exactly that. It comes down to the other thing is your word is your bond,
Well, yeah, it becomes a covenant at that point, which is which is heavier. That's much heavier.
But it feels heavier, right? It feels heavier. Oaths and covenants feel heavier than promises or pinky swears. But they're all kind of the same thing. They really come down to a and I want to stick with the word. The word is always about promises. It's always about a statement of what will be or what you will do. And then there's the thing that you are promising, whatever it is, that is the fulfillment of the promise. But in between those two, sometimes not even noticed, almost assumed, is the commitment. The commitment underlies both, because promises without commitment are lies. They're written on the air. You can promise everything and promise anything, but if your word is not your bond, or if you don't infuse it with commitment, it will very, very quickly turn into a falsehood, and that whole idea of trust is initially, I think all of us do this when we talk with somebody and we meet them and they say, I'll do such and such, and in previous ages we would shake hands, but now we don't. We just rub elbows or whatever we do now. But you would take them at their word. You take their promise. You make a covenant, or a contract. All these things are basically just promises.
Under the classification of a promise, yeah.
No, I mean you say, oh, I say I will do this, and it's nothing more than words. Until it happens, but in my, let's just say singularly, in your promise is encapsulated the trust that you do have commitment. So first of all, you can promise things to yourself, but it never works out well. But generally, you promise something to someone else. You promise something to someone else. You make a covenant with them. You make a promise to them, and then there's an action that happens right at that moment, which is that they trust that you will commit to fulfill your promise. It's this kind of rolling thing. It's a living thing.
You don't keep promises to yourself?
I feel the need to be refreshed. No, of course, I never not keep a promise to myself. Right? This is going the wrong way. Stop. Counselor, I need court to be recessed for a moment while we. Yes.
We ground you, dear. Ground.
Yes. Wow, this went bad.
Of course you keep promises to yourself.
Of course I do.
You may disappoint yourself.
Never.
But you will come back to it and work on it again.
Yes, all those things are true. But but in other types of promises, the ones that you make to other people, you guys got to get back. Okay, so
you have made a promise to someone, and the underlying thing, the other person is looking at you saying, "Do I trust you?" Well, that's your test. If you complete the promise, then you are trustworthy.
Right.
But until you do that, it's a question mark. And it's very interesting because most people, how do I say this? They almost don't understand the depth of that. This is how you build a relationship, unless you build a relationship on someone who's just completely, all they do is talk and maybe listen to them occasionally. But
it's a weak relationship.
I'm just saying that sometimes it's that means that their words have no weight.
Exactly.
So your words, this is one of the things that as human beings, you almost, you become introduced to this as a small child. And you always, whenever something's going on, you always turn to your parents and say, but you said.
Yes, kids are very good at that. But I wanted to start right at that point. It's a very, very interesting point. We are all born into this world with two things. We trust implicitly that someone's going to want us and take care of us. Now, that obviously that isn't always the case, and it's sad. But we are all born trusting. We are all born trusting implicitly without knowing that we are trusting, that someone's going to take care of us and feed us because we cannot do anything. And there's a larger point there about our relationship with the higher being and with spirit, but just in the physical, we are born completely helpless and dependent and full of trust. And then there is, and interestingly enough, on the other side, when you bring a child into the world, you feel the weight of your promise and of the commitment, because in some ways it's engendered by this unconditional trust. You can turn it around. When you trust somebody so implicitly, it also adds weight to their promise. Or at least if they're honest with themselves, they can see that the promise that they made is implicit or unspoken, but still incredibly important both to the person who gives the promise and to the one who trusts that the promise will be fulfilled through commitment. Because, all of us who have had children and those of us who have been children, which is 99.9% of everybody, we realize that this is a serious business.
Yeah, Some people are still children. But that's another discussion.
Another discussion. But you, in bringing children into the world, you do feel this process. You feel the depth of the promise you made, the strength of the covenant, of the bond, the awesome power or the awesome responsibility which underlies the commitment, and then the relationship which is built. And that's why all of us have a incredible bond with you see it even when people are separated for very long periods of time from their birth parents. There's an incredible bond of trust and commitment, promise and fulfillment between parent and child, and that is something which is really ingrained in us. The stranger that you meet, that you immediately try to trust and then see what their promises do or how they work it out, is the stranger that you met when you were brought into this world and took your first breath, because that is your first corporeal, existential, independent experience. Is that you are helpless, unable to do almost anything for yourself, and have to trust implicitly. That's who we are. We are a trusting people, each of us individually and collectively, because without trust, there is no humanity. If a child, an infant, can't trust that its parents want it and will do their best to defend it, feed it, and can fulfill their promise and commitment, humanity ceases to exist largely and nearly completely.
There's no care for the next generation. But that is part of who we are. Yes. And it's more than just genetics. It's more than just in your DNA. It's part of your spirit. And certainly at the core of your soul.
Yes.
And that relationship is core. It's key. And we all know, we may not be able to speak when we're babies, but you know when a little one sees its mother or its father, And the expression that just lights up their face, their whole body lights up. It's just amazing part. Every part of them goes, the person I love, there. And they will fight whatever they can do to get over to the person that they love. Even though they still see them, they need the contact. They need to be next to them. It's inherent in all of us. And if we don't get that, there's a horrible void inside of you that you're always looking to fill.
Yeah, this action of a promise and commitment and fulfillment and everything that's tied to it is right next to your heartbeat. It is the foundation of love, because love is built on trust, and it's built on a promise which is fulfilled, and the promise is all of me to all of you. You trust me with your whole being and your life when you're born, and I will give my whole being and my life to protect yours. That's the basic human contract between one generation and the next.
Oh, just love in general. Love in general will sacrifice its life for another.
Yes.
So it's core to who we are. And that interaction, that love, basically brings about this when we start adding words, because the words are the way that we are interacting one to the other, communicating ideas as well as emotions and feelings, thoughts, concepts. It's all done by your word. And when we speak of building character in a person, the first thing you teach them is how to keep their word when they say something.
It's literally the foundation of your character. It underlies what we call your reputation. It underlies your the ability to function in a family or a society is built on the fulfillment of your word in large and small. As you said, children come up to you and you do something, but you said, the calling of someone on their word is a fundamental human interaction, because your word has weight to the extent, and every time that you fulfill the commitment, you say, I will do something, and it is done. And it isn't just that thing. It then becomes an accrual of, let's call it weight, for lack of a better word. Your word accrues weight each time you fulfill it. You fulfill a promise. And it becomes to the point where you accrue so much weight that your word is practically manifestation for all intents and purposes.
And what's very interesting is the fact that when you are looking at someone and you're evaluating them, what most people do, if they're wise, is watch what that person does as opposed to what is being said. Because there's different degrees of this particular process. We all know people who say a lot of things but never follow through with anything, or follow through very little, or, like a half-hearted attempt. Then you get those that will try to follow through but may be inept at it. Then the ones that do follow through, and if they have made a mistake, will fess up to it and try again. And then those that basically, I can't admit that I've made a mistake. So this is where you begin to understand that there are different faces of a person.
Well, I want to go back because I thought you were going in a different direction, but you're right. All those things are right. But I thought that in essence what you're saying is that when you watch their actions versus their words, what you're really saying is you're making an evaluation, a direct one. Do their words also line up with their actions, or do their words belie or negate their actions? Say I'm promising one thing and doing another, or is it? And we all make this evaluation. Person A says they will do something. The thing doesn't get done, but we instantly, this is the foundation of justice, we instantly say, well, did they try their best, or is there some circumstance that no matter what they would have done or what anyone would have done, it would have not been able to be fulfilled. So there's this evaluation arc, which is what you just said is are their words weightless or even deceptive? Because no matter what they say, they never do what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Or are their words true? And we again this idea of words being true and having weight, but yet, even though the fulfillment or the promise was basically broken, it was not broken through their own fault. It was of no fault of theirs. They tried their best. One extreme case would be someone promises to do something, and they physically can't do it for whatever reason. And you say, well, there's no way that they can fulfill this promise, and there's an instant forgiveness for that. You say, well, they haven't lost the weight of their word. They haven't damaged their reputation, because the understanding of this word could not be fulfilled, but there's a good reason for it.
They did their best.
They did their best.
Mm-hmm. As long as you do your best to try to keep what promises you have said, most people understand that.
Right.
But if you don't try, or basically shrug it off like, oh yeah, well, that was just something I said.
Right.
Then you look at the person and go, you have no substance to you.
No honor.
I can't count on you.
Right.
For anything that you have said. And that is a very sad state of affairs.
If I could stop you for a second, the phrase "I can't count on you" is a wonderful exposition of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we say you can count on someone, you're basically saying that their word is equivalent to the physical thing. You count things. If somebody says, "I will do this," I will do this, and it will. You basically say, well, that's happened already. That is a thing. Their word is manifestation, because their commitment. You've come to understand that this person's words are almost equivalent, or are equivalent, to the thing they promise. So the word becomes manifestation, and this is a very important thing, because when you say I can count on you, you're saying that if you tell me you're going to do it, in my book, it's already done, because your word is manifestation. And this goes to spirit, and I think there's a great connection to the Lord says, "Let there be light," and there's light. When you can trust something so implicitly that the word is the thing, it becomes manifestation. So when your words gather weight, they're gathering more than just weight. They're gathering power, and they're gathering, in essence, the word becomes the thing. The word becomes the actual thing, because your words have such weight that they manifest the thing.
Mm-hmm. And wouldn't that be interesting to think about, that the reason why you're down here is to refine your ability to manifest your words?
I think that's more than correct. It's actual truth.
And if I change my vocabulary a bit, you become a co-creator. in this universe when you're able to manifest your words. And that is the training that we have down here.
And the important vehicle for training is truth and commitment. In other words, manifestation means that your word is the thing, that your speaking of the word manifests it, because your commitment, I will do this, I will do this. Now, it isn't magic.
Right.
It's manifestation, which is very different.
Well, yeah, most people kind of lump them together. But it's understanding that when you commit to something, and most people say with your whole heart and soul,
yes,
it's understanding that your spirit is involved with that. You have life that speaks through your words. And when life speaks through your words, then manifestation is right there. And you will not be deterred from the outcome of what you have spoken into existence.
Right.
Because it's absolute. This is where your choice has become commitment, because you wind up choosing every second of your moment of now. It has no choice but to be.
Yes, and I think the important thing also to put into this is, and this is why it's not magic, your commitment and your manifestation based on your word still may require everything you've got, including your life.
Right.
It is not without cost.
Right.
It is, in fact, the greatest commitments come with the ultimate cost. However, your word and the payment of commitment, if it's correct, will manifest that thing. This is the point, is the word is not magic. The word commits your life force to the manifestation, and it's unbreakable.
Correct. That's why old cultures would exchange blood, because the life of the body was in the blood.
Yes.
So they're exchanging life with each other.
And it was covenant.
Yes, that is called covenant. And it's death itself. If you would go to death itself in that type of covenant.
Yes. I mean, this is the key, is your word and your commitment. People say it's a blood oath. Well, that's what that means, is that I'm committing through my word my life.
Yes.
And we're going to commit now to 2 minutes of these important messages, and then we'll be back.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
The Timeless Esoterica radio program with Dr. Bruce is broadcast on the 4th Monday of every month at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on ArtistFirst.com. We explore topics including the paranormal, alien life, mysteries, conspiracies, hidden history, oddities, and much more. Each show will feature a special guest with exciting and thought-provoking discussion. Always keep an open mind, an open heart, live forever, and remember Dr. Bruce believes in you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhum.music.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lyons is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Thank you for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Scott. And see, that 2 minutes wasn't so long. We manifested ourselves right back here. And tonight we've been talking about promises and commitment and fulfillment. And we come to something interesting, which is that, in essence, because we are who we are, because of humanity being, in essence, born into trust and born with the ability to both promise and commit and fulfill, it is something that I think is correct. At least it feels very correct that we're here in this incarnate state, in this physical state, incarnated out of spirit, to learn that our word, our promises, through which we channel our commitment, and which is basically the cost of the promise, is the way we learn what manifestation means, what it is to manifest, how our words become, in essence, the thing. And our relationship with spirit and with the Creator is that we are part of creation, but we are also, as you mentioned in the last half hour, we are co-creators. We have the ability to speak our word, our promise, and it channels and it apportions our life force through commitment to the manifestation. And we made a point just reiterate last half hour, that is not, it's not magic. You see, people, unfortunately, there's a lot of, let's say, happy talk about how you just manifest things by repeating them over and over again. That's not to say that these techniques aren't useful for some things, but it's not magic, because manifestation can take your whole life and everything you've got to do the word that you have spoken, because the commitment in the spoken word doesn't come from like the ether or nowhere or everywhere. It comes from you. Your word commits your force, your life, your energy, your breath, your blood. And we also mentioned, that covenant is almost always associated with life force, with blood. In the Old Testament, covenant was a blood sacrifice. Covenant in the Native American tradition was a blood oath. And it's throughout, it's all humanity. These are just a couple of close by examples. That covenant, which is promise, commits a portion of your life, maybe your whole life, to fulfillment, to manifestation of the promise. When a couple commit themselves to each other, to death do us part is part of the ceremony. But you're committing through the promise your whole life to that other person, who is hopefully also committing their whole life to you. The interesting thing, Margaret, and I'll just put this out there, and then you please, if you would comment, is that you can commit your whole life to something and still have your whole life to commit to something else. It's not that you don't commit your life to somebody and have no more life left to commit. In fact, you gain power and life and ability and weight to your words in commitment, but it doesn't exhaust the commitment. It takes everything you've got to do this manifestation, but you've still got everything you've got to continue other manifestations. In other words, your level of commitment to one person can be the same level of commitment to another person, to your children, to someone that's incredibly important to you, to something which is incredibly important to you. Yes, you have to apportion your time, but your level of commitment at the life force level can be for more than just one thing.
Your life here is something that you create. Your interaction with the world around here, and one of the main modes in that creation is speaking. And it's speaking to other people, speaking to situations, speaking to groups, to family. That is part of your interaction down here. And the ability to be able to speak and your words carry much weight is truly an accomplishment. Because it means that you have brought together all the different parts of you to be able to come to an agreement, a balance point, and you speak from that balance point. And that means every part of you is agreeing. There's no doubt that is coming through your mouth. It's all on the same page. It's all together. And the minute you take the breath and open your mouth and speak, what comes through is that commitment to the energy, to the concept, to the form, to the person. That communication is clear. There's no
I was going to say ambiguity, but yeah.
Yeah, ambiguity to it. And that's a full crystallization, okay? It takes time to be able to come to a point where when you speak, your words have that kind of weight. When I say weight, what it means is the words hit at every level of the other person you are speaking with. All parts of the other person are responding. Their mind, their heart, their body, their intellect, their outlook are engaged in the words that are coming from you. And that opens up the lines of communication. You are speaking with the other person on all those different body levels. Those are energy body levels. So that's how you get your resonance or your harmony going. If you can get a resonance, it usually means that relationship amplifies, expands, grows. That's the kind of relationship you yearn for in your own heart of hearts. You know, you've seen small children, they just want to talk to you, and it doesn't really matter necessarily what they're saying. Sometimes they don't even have words, but they want to communicate, and they want to see that there is a resonance going on between you and them. And when you're both agreeing over something, and it could be something so simple, like, you know, we're both eating the same thing and it tastes good, that resonates. That means that in that moment of space and time, the both of you are enjoying each other's company. That becomes an eternal moment. And as I said, you don't necessarily need to have the appropriate words. When you get older, you will have more of a vocabulary. And hopefully become skilled in being able to expand your conversations.
Yes, but and that training phase of interaction is built on this promise, commitment, fulfillment. You know, when the children is a great example, because in modeling manifestation, in modeling promises which are fulfilled through commitment to a child, they learn the same thing. They learn that the person to whom I trust, give my trust implicitly, that their word, and sometimes it's a non-verbal word. You know, promises can be made without words, but it can be a non-verbal promise that is fulfilled, and the resonance is in essence the fact that they are learning and understanding that this is how you do this. This is how your word becomes weighty, and they learn it. As they learn that, they grow in power. Their words grow in weight. The truthfulness of the words at the heart level is also part of the power of the words. If your words turn into deeds or into objects or into manifestations, whatever type, they gain power. To move it all the way up, you just said, your words, your vocabulary, your ability to lead and through your weightiness of your manifestation can make it so that that everyone who interacts with you resonates with your word. We call it leadership. We call it the ability to engender action of vast numbers of people. But the only way you do that, although there are other less, but the way that you do that in the most correct way is that your example, your leading by example, your word being your bond, your commitment resonates with the other, not just with one, but with many. And that they find that the trueness of the manifestation allows them to lend their power to you or to the effort, to the manifestation seamlessly. Everyone works, when things are working, everyone's working together, because all those words are in harmony. All those committed energies are now working in harmony, and the manifestation is greater than one could do, but yet it is all from that word, or the symphony of words. This is what we're learning here too.
What the word will do is it will align hearts. And when the heart is aligned, when there are many hearts all committed to one purpose, amazing things happen. Because the whole heart commitment means that it is exactly that. You would rather that your own life or you yourself would be hurt than the heart break happens. And that kind of commitment is selfless.
Yes.
So when you are together in a group being led by a true heart, because it takes a true heart to really lead purely and in a focused manner. And that means that the leader himself is selfless.
Yes.
So what's happened is all the hearts, through that word interchange and the ability to count on each other, commit their hearts completely to that selfless goal.
That is, I think, among the highest forms of manifestation.
Yes. Oh, and the most powerful.
And among the most powerful of all.
Yes.
And when we talk about that, the example of manifestation, if we talk about the creation, we talk about the word becoming all. You know, let there be light, let there be creation. That one word, in essence, was the commitment which rolls through our universe to this day. If you look at it from the point of view of that commitment, which resonates in not just all of our hearts, but all creation, and that we get to participate. I mean, that's the amazing thing. In giving, in allowing incarnation of independent spirit, and giving that independent spirit freedom, free will, to do what? To have your own word. You can't have a word if you are enslaved. Your word means nothing if you're enslaved, because you have no will. Below commitment, below the word, is the will. And the free will allows the word. And the word that is powered by the will is participating as a co-creator of a different order, of course, but a co-creator nonetheless. And this is the power. This is what, if you say we're here to learn, this is what we're here to learn. We do it for each other. We come into this incarnation with incredible potential, but with nothing but trust that the word, that the promise will be fulfilled, that we will be taken care of. But here we learn that our freedom, the freedom of our will, is expressed through our word with the truth of the heart, and that allows creation. This is the process of creation. We talk about, the word became flesh, or the word became all. Well, this is it. It's taking the potential of nothing, of all, of the void, and putting the scintillating purity of the word into it through free will that,
crystallizes into a tangible form in the here and now. Because you can't create in the future or recreate your past, although I'm sure some people have tried.
No, but that's a very, I hear your humor, but that's an incredibly important point.
And the creation, the act of creation is in the now, in no other place.
But commitment has a timeline, though.
Well, commitment is an ongoing thing. It is a process.
Exactly.
So when you choose with your free will to be a certain way, it means you are committing yourself to this particular form, whatever that form you've chosen to be. In other words, the purity of your spirit, you're asking for that to come through, because you cannot heart commit to anything unless your heart, your mind, and your soul and spirit are in it. You can't, people do mental commitments, and what they do is they're checking off the box, going, okay, I did that, and I did that.
Well, I want to back up. I think the point I want you to stress, because it's a wonderful point, is that the commitment is all about, it's a process which involves choice. And if you talk about it in a quantum physical sense, the manifestation of reality is through the coalescing of probability, through choice.
Yes.
Through choice. And we see it writ in the smallest of things, in things that are below all reality. We see that choice is incredibly important for reality. And choice is nothing more than commitment. When you choose, you commit. To the extent that you continue to fulfill your choice is the extension into commitment. Commitment is a long series of choices, but each individual moment of now is a requirement for choice and manifestation out of potential, which is why you can't choose in the future or re-choose the past. So this subtlety of commitment, promise, commitment, fulfillment is in every Planck time of this universe that we're in. But yet, here's the subtlety of time, is that without what we call time, there's no choice. If time doesn't exist, choice is a null. For choice, you have to have just the Planck time of time. Each choice gets you further along. The choice is the agent of time. You could say that the time's dimension is the choice dimension.
I'm going to get a little nerdy.
Then nerdier than that? Wow, let's go. I'm ready.
You know how they look at time as space-time, and it's this fabric of space, as they say, where gravity is described as this giant, the typical example is always the sun sitting in the middle of this giant blanket-looking thing, and then the planets are rolling around it, because the space has been warped. I kind of look at it a little differently. Just that time itself, I think of as being a fractal pattern, where in a fractal, you have this sort of how do I call it? It's like a branching that happens. And those branchings, which are very natural in the environment, you see them all the time. It's always like the tree pattern. There's always, at every connection, there's only three extensions from a single point. A branch always has is like a Y formation. Okay, that extends out into these wonderful fractal patterns, which are quite beautiful. You see fractal patterns when you see ice forming on a window, and just the beautiful crystallization. But I love the fact that the fractals, they come into these spiral formations. They're always in spiral formations. It has to do with the golden mean, but I'm not gonna go into that right now. And space-time, what they're talking about in terms of string theory is that there are 11 dimensions. And I think it's The dimensions that they're talking about are very tiny, teeny tiny, and they roll in on themselves. And that's what I think of time as. Time actually goes trans-dimensional. And that's how you're able to kind of hop through dimensions, is by going through these sort of fractal patternings.
Spirals.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty nerdy.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, guys.
No, it's good. I think, though, that besides the science, which is important, and besides the way that because this is all our concept of what's happening.
Right, but my point being that I think of time that way, but that means that your choice crystallizes your life energy into those patterns. In other words, you reach your eternity by curling into those infinite dimensions.
Exactly. And the instant of choice, the instant of now, the Planck time of now, which is, look it up, it's incredibly small, is the only place where choice exists, where one potential becomes a thing, and then the next Planck time another thing, or it's why the universe rolls forward, because choice, because manifestation. And you know what, we're going to make a choice to manifest ourselves into another show next week. And I'm Michael Lyons, as far as I know.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.